Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Layo Adegoke. Aid agency Save the Children says militants are beheading children as young as 11 in Mozambique's northern province of Cabo Delgado. One mother told the agency she had to watch her 12-year-old son killed in this way close to where she was hiding with other children. More than 2,500 people have been killed and 700,000 others have fled their homes since an Islamist insurgency began in that country in 2017. The militants are linked to the Islamic State IS group. Meanwhile, American Special Operations Forces are to spend 2 months training troops in Mozambique to try to prevent the spread of Islamist militant violence in the north of the country. Insurgents have staged regular attacks in the gas-rich Cabo Delgado province since 2017, leaving at least 2,500 people dead and 500,000 displaced. In response, Mozambique has turned to private military companies, but right groups have accused mercenaries and government forces of abuses, including shooting civilians. The U.S. Embassy says the training program would prioritize civilian protection, human rights, and community involvement to help combat what it called Islamic State in Mozambique. Well, let's get more on this story from a security analyst, Chidi Warner, joining us now for more on this. Hello, Chidi. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's begin with this heartbreaking news from Save the Children that militants are beheading children as young as 11 in Cabo Delgado. How should the Mozambican government and international community respond to this?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I think, in part, you have to look at this as a response to the recent successes that the Mozambican government has had in its counterinsurgency efforts. Now, these aren't great successes, and there's still a lot to do. But the group has suffered some setbacks, so it has to up the ante by conducting atrocities that would not only terrify the civilian population, but also maybe deter the Mozambican forces from pressing, their advantage.
Well, talking about the international community, the U.S. says it plans to train Mozambique troops for 2 months, on how to tackle the insurgents. Is 2 months enough, in your opinion? Is it enough time for this crisis? And, what more can the U.S. do to intervene in this matter?
Well, 2 months is enough to train, fairly competent troops if the training is well conducted and if it is fit for purpose. But there's a lot of factors that have to be put into place. First and foremost, Mozambique is a Portuguese-speaking, it's a Lusophone country, Portuguese-speaking country. So you need to, it sounds very basic, but to be able to translate your instructions into Portuguese from English and from American English, can be a bit of an issue. The second thing is obviously the Mozambican forces were formerly Soviet trained, Russian trained, and you're trying to translate American tactics into those kind of tactics with troops from a completely different culture. And then you've got to look at the equipment they're using, the kind of command structure. Are these troops all going to be kept together or are they going to be dispersed? So there's lots of factors that would militate as to whether this will be successful. But, within 2 months, all things being equal, you can train a fairly competent force. The question is, can you sustain it and how is it going to be used? And the question of what to do more, short of deploying troops or deploying assets, I think the US should limit itself to training and maybe supplying limited amount of equipment, because any deeper involvement then serves as another kind of incentive for international, transnational jihadis to join the conflict.
Well, Chidi, it is at moments like this that one wonders where the African standby force is. Why has that force not yet been deployed to any of the crisis points on the continent? A lot of other countries are also battling this insurgency.
Well, it's a very good question, but the key thing is that force doesn't exist, so it's impossible to deploy it. As in everything in terms of international coalitions, they revolve around certain key countries. So, if you're looking at NATO, it revolves around the United States. If you're looking at the EU, it revolves around France, the United Kingdom, or maybe not the United Kingdom anymore, Germany. And in terms of Africa, such a force would revolve around South Africa or Nigeria, Nigeria obviously has its own problems. South Africa, its military is greatly reduced and denuded and quite committed in the DRC. So there is no other force really in Africa that you can center, such a standby force around. And without funding, without training, and without some country, driving it forward, there's no way that force can be generated, much less deployed.
All right, then. We'd like to thank you so much, Chiding-Won, a security analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Well, in West Africa, 2 Malian soldiers have been killed in an attack in the northeastern region. A statement from the country's army says the assailants stormed a military post southwest of the town of Ansongo, near the borders with Burkina Faso and Niger, in an area where jihadist groups are rampant on Monday. Mali is one of several Sahel nations currently fighting jihadist insurgencies, and the violence is getting worse. The dominant jihadist group in this region is the Al-Qaeda affiliate, JNIM. Well, still in Mali, the United Nations has named a Mauritanian diplomat, El Gassam Wane, as its special representative and head of the peacekeeping mission in Mali. Mr. Wane has 25 years of experience in conflict prevention, mediation, and peacekeeping. He is taking over from former Chadian Foreign Minister Mohamed Saleh Anadif. Mauritanian served as Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations at the UN between 2016 and 2017, and later worked at the African Union up to 2019. In recent months, he led a team conducting an independent strategic review of the UN-led peacekeeping operation in South Sudan. Well, Libya's new unity government has been sworn in, marking the end of years of rival administrations. The interim Prime Minister, Abdulhamid Deiba, who was selected during UN-brokered peace talks last month, will lead the country until elections planned for December. Libya descended into conflict after the ousting of longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi 10 years ago. It was then split between a UN-recognized government in the west fighting against the warlord Khalifa Haftar, whose rival administration controlled the east. The two sides were supported by different regional powers. In the meantime, Libyan women want progress in the country following the government's appointment of 5 female ministers in the new unity government. Although many welcome this rare development, other citizens are still asking for more in other spheres of the country.
Libya's first female foreign minister, Najel El-Mangoush, has been sworn in as part of a new unity government, a rare female voice at the top table whose appointment many Libyan women have welcomed. Mangoush, a lawyer who had a role in the transitional council that briefly governed Libya after its 2011 uprising, will be joined by 4 other women in the cabinet, including Halima Abdul Rahman in the key job of Justice Minister.
It's very exciting that there is a woman in such a position, and I wish they will be up to the challenge that she has been given, and that she will contribute to leading Libya in the best way on the international front.
The Prime Minister's interim government emerged through a UN talks process and is mandated to unify Libya's divided state institutions and oversee national elections in December. The 75 Libyan delegates selected by the UN to take part in those talks laid out a commitment for the new government to include women in 30% of senior government roles, including in top cabinet posts. In fact, women represent only 15% of the posts in the Prime Minister's cabinet, but he has said the proportion will rise when deputy ministers are appointed.
Women belong in certain places, but for a woman to be in a position leading the affairs of an entire people, I don't think it's suitable. There are certain places that need women and others do not. But in a position where women would be expected to handle the affairs of a population, I don't feel it works.
I was so happy to hear about the women being appointed to the government. It's great news for all Libyan women, and we're very happy and hopeful with this new government. I hope for the best for them.
When the Libyan state crumbled after 2011 and mired warring factions seized territory, women suffered a wave of violence. Those in official positions were nearly all men until now.
Sudan has formally requested for an expanded mediation team on the dispute over the mega dam that Ethiopia is building on the Nile River. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok has written to the UN, the Democratic Republic of Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi, who is also the African Union chairman, the European Union and the US. In a statement, Mr. Hamdok expressed concern over Ethiopia's declared intention to fill the dam for the second time in June without any binding agreement between the three concerned countries. The Sudanese Prime Minister says the negotiations will provide significant international and regional support and constitutes the required guarantee to build confidence in the negotiations. Ethiopia, which sees the dam as critical for producing enough energy to power its economic dreams, opposes the additional mediators other than the African Union. Well, we have joining us now Sudanese journalist Mohamed Alamin, joining us from Khartoum to tell us more about this story. Thank you so much, Mohamed, for speaking to us. Let's start with the reactions. What are the Sudanese people saying about the Prime Minister's request for an expanded mediation team on this dispute over the mega dam?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. Actually, yeah, the Sudanese people are very worried about the recent statements from Ethiopia that it will going for unilateral filling of the dam without exchanging of information with the other partners, Sudan and Ethiopia. And you know, the Sudanese government has warned actually that this filling of the dam that's supposed to be taken place in June will be a national security threat to Sudan, especially the people who are living on the two sides of the bank of the Blue Nile, from the border to in Ethiopia up to the capital Khartoum. You know, the Sudanese diplomacy has tried to avoid the escalation with Ethiopia by different efforts that exerted by the Sudanese diplomacy, headed by the Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok and the Sudanese Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Water Resources. You know, Sudan has asked for the mediation from Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia and UAE, and is insisting on the African solutions to the African crisis. And after the failure of these attempts, actually, because of the insistence of Ethiopia to press on its plan regarding the filling of the dam, now Sudan is asking for expansion of these diplomatic efforts, including the United Nations, European Union, United States, and the African Union, so that it may bring in wider platform with wider kind of expertise in the issue to convince Ethiopia to review its plans. You know, Ethiopia for a long time is used the tactic of negotiation while going on in the dam building, which is actually tactic of gaining time through the extension of the negotiation.
All right, then, Sudanese journalist Mohamed Alamin, thank you for joining us on the program. Kenya and Somalia, both countries have a sea border dispute at the International Court of Justice, and that case has begun in the court despite Kenya's absence. On Monday, the case started with oral arguments by Somalia's government's legal team. The ICJ has said it regrets the decision of Kenya not to participate, but ruled to continue the hearing without the country's involvement. Somalia says Kenya's decision not to participate in the ICJ proceedings is inconsistent with its obligations and rule of law. The bench also rejected Kenya's request to address the council before the start of the hearings. Kenya had sought to address the court on why the country may not participate in the hearings of the case that started back in 2014. Kenya is also accusing the ICJ of bias in the case, which concerns a 62,000 square miles triangle in the Indian Ocean. The Vice President of the breakaway state of Somaliland, Adriham Seislisi, has tested positive for coronavirus. On Twitter, he urged people to follow guidelines set by the health authorities on COVID-19 and also to pray for him. Somaliland declared independence from Somalia during the 1991 civil war and has since been stable. While some countries maintain informal ties, its independence from Somalia is not internationally recognized. Here in West Africa, Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio has become the first citizen to take the COVID-19 vaccine in the country, which officially rolled out its mass vaccination campaign on Monday. Vice President Mohamed Judle Jallo and many other top government officials also took the shots at the rollout ceremony, and so did many frontline health workers. At the ceremony, President Bio expressed his gratitude to all the donor partners, particularly China, for donating the vaccines to Sierra Leone. The National Coronavirus Response Center said the country received vaccine donations from China and the WHO-coordinated COVAX program. The batch of 200,000 doses of China-made Sinopharm vaccines arrived in February.
It is a milestone that we've been trying to fight off COVID using measures, but now we have a vaccine. And thanks be to the People's Republic of China and the COVAX facility, we have 2 sets of vaccines here that are quite safe and also efficacious.
The UK has added Ethiopia and Somalia to a red list of countries from where travel to England is banned. The travel ban will come into force on Friday. A statement from the Department of Transport says the travel ban is meant to reduce the risk of new variants entering the UK. Meanwhile, Mauritius will be removed from the list on Friday. African countries already on the list include Angola, Botswana, Burundi, Cape Verde, Democratic Republic of Congo, Eswatini, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Rwanda, Seychelles, and South Africa. Here in Lagos, Nigeria, as more concerns are raised over a possible side effect of the COVID-19 vaccine, the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, says reactions to vaccines are normal. Professor Abayomi explains that everyone reacts to vaccines differently and there is nothing to worry about, adding that those with adverse effect means their body system is reacting to one of the antibiotics and the state government is ready to manage such cases.
On Saturday, I felt a little bit bone pains, a bit cold. Of course, the injection site was a bit sore. So I just took some Panadols, I went to sleep. I did a bit of exercise, and then I went to sleep. And I woke up yesterday morning and I felt fantastic, But, everybody is different. We expect that some people won't feel anything at all. Some people have a bit of body pain. Some may even have shivering. Those are all expected side effects. It's in the literature. We mentioned it. And we just categorize those as adverse events following immunization. There's another category called adverse events of special interest. And those are very rare. So the first type of getting pain at the site of injection or feeling body pains or headache is normal. Most people will experience something like that if you take the vaccine. But the one special interest, they're serious. They cause people to collapse, they go into shock, they get severe complications from, and it can happen with any vaccination. It's not confined to COVID. They're very rare. They happen maybe 1 in 5 million people who will take it will experience an anaphylactic reaction. In other words, you react to something in the vaccine. Maybe you're allergic to one of the chemical carriers or something like that. But we're ready for that. If you notice the kit that we had at the site, it contains steroids and all kinds of medication. If anybody gets the vaccine and has an anaphylactic reaction, the doctors at the site of vaccination are ready to deal with that.
And as we end the program today with no snowfall during Egypt's winters, adventurous people are finding new ways to enjoy snowboarding. Some Egyptians have found an alternative to winter snowboarding by sliding on salt. That is, they slide down the small salt hills in the canal city of Port Fouad. Take a look.
These crystals, falling from Egyptian student Samar Hamdi's hands, are not snowflakes but salt, which she's using to playfully enjoy a day out with her friends. Hamdi and many Egyptians living in the city of Port Fouad have been substituting the lack of snow with these salt hills, an activity made popular this winter season.
It looks like snow. When we post our pictures online, people outside Port Said think we traveled to a place where it's snowing. It's a very lovely place.
The hills are run by the government-owned El Excellence Company, which exports the salt abroad for melting ice, and therefore the crystals are not at risk of contamination. Many of its visitors are comparing the sites to Moscow and other parts of Europe, where snow falls regularly during the winter seasons.
It looks like a snow mountain, like it's in Moscow.
Some people think the hill is a waste of cooking salt, but Salma is clearing that up.
This is not for cooking. It is exported and used for melting ice. This is a clarification because people think that we step on the salt they eat with our feet. No, this is not used for cooking. People can come to play and take pictures as they please in such a beautiful spot.
It started 2 months ago when one Egyptian posted a picture online sliding down the hills. It went viral and people are now flocking to the site to enjoy the new experience. The site is currently open for free for visitors from inside and outside the city in an effort to encourage local tourism.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.